Hello, hello. Hi, Terry. Hi, Rhonda. Good to see you guys. Hope you're doing okay today. I do. It is HOT hot here. Let me just tell you that. Whoo, is it hot here today? I'm hoping, I think we're supposed to get some cooler weather at some point. Hi, Hermie. Hello, Peggy. I was just going to look. I think we're supposed to get some cooler weather. Yeah, we're supposed to get a break in this nonsense later this week. That would be so delightful. Right now, it's just that. Hi, Julie. It's just that oppressive. You know, you feel like you're baking. When you go outside, you're like, oh, I think I'm baking to death. That's what it feels like. Of course, we're not, but that's what it feels like. You took out your garden? Oh, no. What happened? Did it flood it? What happened? That's a terrible thing. Hey, Connie, good to see you. Ugh. Yeah, muggy. Several inches of rain, lots of lightning. Hard rain and strong wind. That's so sad. I hate that. I hate that for you. I do. So, I'm still playing in this little book that I was working on the other day, Friday. And so I thought, well, we'll play some more in this book. What do you think? I hope that's okay with you all. Before we do that, all that work gone in one whoop. No kidding. Hey, Lady Jan. Yeah, when you like to garden and it just goes whoosh right away. Yeah. Heartbroken. I know. That is awful. Did I ever tell you the story about Clausman's grandfather and what he did to our garden? I'm not sure I told you. There's another Terry. Hello. I'll tell you while I'm working in this little book. I'll tell you that in a little bit. Okay. It doesn't have to do with the storm. Yeah, I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Okay, how about my work surface is small and getting smaller because I keep encroaching upon my space here. Anyway, just trying to get some stuff where I can get to it because I have not been home much today. And when I was home, I crashed and burned for a few minutes. Like, totally sound asleep. Fortunately, I set a timer. Otherwise, I'd probably still be asleep, you know? Anyway, No Wheat, hello. Oh, No Wheat, it's so good to see you. How are you, my friend? How are you? Oh, it's so good to see your name in the chat. Really good to see your name in the chat. Yeah. I think about you a lot. When I see your videos come up, I'm like, bless her heart. You're good? Great. That is good. Can't quite imagine what you must be living through there. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple things. I've watched somebody online recently who had gotten a laser engraver, and so it just happened that I got this from Elton on my birthday, and I thought I would show it to you. I don't know if anybody here has a laser engraver or laser cutter or laser, I don't know what all you call the thing. But anyway, but I just thought I would show this to you because first of all, the sentiment's lovely, of course, but it's really so interesting to see this done on a card. So it's wood, and it's all done on a laser. And this wood is, I'm not sure, it's probably 1/8 of an inch thick. And then the words are cut and put on top of it. So this is wood and that's wood. And then this is engraved down into, the border is engraved down into it, and the words that is engraved down into the wood. It's just such a beautiful little thing. And so that was just really nice. I just thought I would show you that, because if any of you have an engraver or a laser cutter or whatever they're called, I just thought that would be some interesting inspiration. Isn't that neat? Yeah, neat thing. Anyway, just thought I'd show that to you. I got to figure out something to put it in so I can frame that, because that's too good to just stick away somewhere. And it's so true. It's so true. The little moment. It's not the mountaintop things. It's the little moments. Now, lest you think that Elton is super romantic, which he has the ability to be. This was one of the other cards he gave me. He is a nutcase, and so one of the things, Glowforge. Yeah, I think that is that a brand, or is that, I don't know. I don't know if that's a brand. I'm not up on my laser things, but Glowforge I know is a name I recognize, but I don't know. Okay, so lest you think that life here is just all roses and whatever. No, it's not. A lot of it is just old-fashioned goofy. So one of the things that we do is, and it just happens, we're out doing something, we'll run across one of those spinner racks of cards, like most of them are not the super expensive cards, and they're not the Hallmark cards, and we will stand there reading those cards and just crack up, just totally crack up. Okay, well, this came from one of those, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so I thought you guys would enjoy this. So it's a chicken doing stand-up comedy. Okay, you're so old. You remember when rainbows only came in black and white. Your back goes out more than you do. Your social security number is 1. You remember when the Dead Sea was only sick. The candles cost more than the cake. Getting lucky means you found your car in the parking lot. You took your driving test on a dinosaur, and even your birthday suit needs ironing. Yeah, so that's my romantic husband. So we will stand there and we will look at those crazy cards, and it happens every time. Because Elton likes to he doesn't like to give anybody one card. He likes to give people many cards. Many cards. And so he will walk out with, $40 worth of cards. And then, I know, and then he'll put them in his stash of cards. And I think, oh, this is good. We have this big stash of cards. But then he'll hand them out, 5 and 6 at a time. Oh, and he's brutal sometimes to people he knows real well, like his sister and stuff. Oh man, he is brutal with his cards. Anyway, I found some more postcards I got while we were on our trip, and so I thought I would show these to you. Remember I told you about the cats that we saw when we were in touring Greece? Here's some more of them. I just find it fascinating that they have these cats all over there. I don't know if they're protected or what the deal is, but anyway, here's some more. These look more like a common cat than the ones that we saw there that look more like the Siamese body style. Yeah, at the Acropolis. I don't know if they actually had cats at the Acropolis. It was so hot there. I didn't even go all the way up. So I don't know if there were cats up there. If there were, they needed to have their heads examined. This reminded me of the artwork. I mean, it's just reminded me of artwork of Terry Runyon. She does a lot of cat illustrations. But look, you've got the grape arbor with grapes hanging down, and then fish, two stringers of fish. Cat with a fish in its mouth. Yeah, I just think unique cats of Greece, these are. And then this was just a really pretty, let's see, yeah. This was just a really pretty postcard of some of the buildings in Santorini. And that's a lot of what it looked like. A lot of white buildings. And a lot of times the domes were blue. Up in Ia, I think, was where we had the white buildings with the blue domes. Most of those were churches. But the architectural style was really interesting. Lots of flat roofs, and then an arched roof. I don't know what so you had arches and flat, and I'm not really sure what this is. If those are windmills, I don't know what that is. Anyway, I just bought the postcards because I thought they were neat. Not because I really knew what I was buying. They have sanctuaries all over for the cats. Is that what it is, Noe? They're protected. Oh. Okay. Why are they protected? Do you know? I should look that up. Hi, Deborah. I should look that up. I don't know why they're protected. If they're there to hunt, keep the varmint population under control, or what? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I would share those with you since I found them. I hope you're all doing well. We've had just a wild, crazy few days. But things are okay. It's just crazy. It's the same in the Middle East. They have cats all over. Isn't that interesting? It's one of those things that makes you go, right? So anyway, what I did is I took the postcards and I copied them. We have a laser printer, color laser printer. And so I copied the postcards so that I can cut things out of the postcards. I made 2 copies of each one. This is just on printer paper. Several countries protect cats. Isn't that interesting? Rhonda would like to be a postcard artist. Yep. That I'm sure that I don't know how you go about doing that, but it is interesting, isn't it? So these are all just different shots, scenes from some of the different places that we went. In Burano, or on Burano, whatever. They do have a lot of these very colorful buildings. I think the color's been boosted in this actually, but they are colorful. There's in Venice. So these, the color printer copied these very well, and colored, it printed what it saw. It printed quite well. So I thought I would use bits and pieces of these in what I may do here. So there's more of the Burano buildings, but you saw the original postcard, and that's pretty amazing. It's an HP laser printer, and I just thoroughly enjoy those images. So anyway, I have those that I may use. Okay. So let's go back to this little project, and I have not done any more in it. I intended to, but yeah, that didn't happen. So we're just going to take the things out of the pockets here, the black tag things out of the pockets, and just set those aside for now. Looks like the tape that I glued on here stuck, so that's good. I wasn't sure whether it was going to stick to this glassine, little glassine envelope that I bag that I turn into a pocket. Anyhow, let's go over to signature number 2, and I'm just going to stick in a few more things here of the kind of translucent scrappy papers. And because what I did in the first signature, there's 3 signatures. It's junk mail. Junk mail turned into a book. And so what I did was just on these, I used real light washes of watercolor. And I only got so far in that. And then we went over here and we started in the second signature, adding just bits and pieces of scraps of mostly some rice papers and mostly deli papers that were just scraps, cast off things from jelly plate sessions and that kind of stuff. This is a prescription bag. I don't have many of those, gratefully, and but I use those to make another pocket of some kind. Okay, so we're over to here. So let's add some more stuff. How much that laser printer cost? About, it was in the $400 range, and which was great, you know, because that has come down in price a lot from when they first came out, and yeah, it's come down in price a lot. Where they get you, however, is in the cost of the cartridges. And this one has a CMYK, each toner cartridge. There's a yellow, a blue, which is the cyan, and then the magenta, and then the black cartridge. And so that's where they get you, because that's where it's expensive. Super expensive. You pay for, in the toner cartridges, you pay for the cost of the printer again in the toner cartridges. So it costs you about as much for the toner cartridges as it does for the printer itself. Now it does come with a printer, you know, with cartridges, the toner cartridges to start with, but you know, like any printer, even though it comes with ink cartridges or toner cartridges or whatever, it's not the full size, and so they run out fairly quickly, which is kind of a rip when you think about it. Anyway, yeah. I'm making this book for a specific purpose, so all I'm doing on this one, Julie, is just putting some things on the pages so there's some background, and the purpose of that is so that when I pass it along, that it's just got something on the pages, because for a lot of people, if you don't have something on the page to start with, it's just paralyzing to a lot of people to begin to do anything. For me, I journal a lot. I should say I journal, you know, the truth is I haven't journaled a lot this year. I will show you, if you give me a second, I will show you what I do in my own journaling. Whoop. Okay, so this is an old stack of journals from 2022. And this is a different style journal than this one. The one I'm doing right here is one that I created. I made the journal. These are purchased, and they are purchased like this, which is a moleskin or moleskina journal. I buy them like this with the craft covers, and then from there I do my journaling. So we'll just look at this one. So this is the same journal exactly as this one, but you can see by the time I put all the stuff in it, they fatten up, and some of them fatten up a whole lot more than others. Okay, so for example, I will go through, and in mine I add pictures, and sometimes I add, things from things that I've purchased. In mine I do a lot of writing, and sometimes I add things that people have sent to me. I add flip outs, I add screenshots of things that I find online. I'll add, this was a cup of tea, of my own cups of tea. This was something that came from online. These are all little photographs that there's Race with his dog. And sometimes I have rub-ons or stickers. I end up putting a lot of washi tapes, and this was something that someone sent to me, and so I kept it, and sometimes you have to, like, these were notes that were on my door. Anyway, so, and these are things that I cut off of something that somebody sent me. This is paper that I wove together. These were 2 sheets of paper that one of my viewers sent to me, and so I wove it together, and then I put butterflies on it. And this was another piece from this same paper that she sent to me. And but I do a lot of writing. It's where I process things. These were drawings that are images that were turned into stickers that Aunt Beck sent me. This was me when I was a little girl. This was my wedding to a Claus man, and this was a card that somebody sent to me and gave me, and so I flipped it in there. So, if it's something I want to remember, I stick it in my journals. So, and I do a different cover on every one of them, and I do that specifically because I want to be able to remember that I spend, weeks or sometimes months in one journal, and I want to be able to remember what's in each one. And pretty much I have a pretty good idea of what's inside a journal just based on the cover. I know kind of what I'm looking for when I go to it. They're all different, and I do that on purpose. So hopefully that makes sense. The journaling for me has been essential. I've journaled for a number of years, and yeah, it's been an essential part of what I need to stay mentally and emotionally healthy. And it's no shame in admitting that you have to find the things that make you healthy, keep you healthy. All right, so, and then at the end of the year, I label each one of them and with what the dates are that I used that journal for. So the inside the cover, you know, and it took me a long time to get a system that worked for me. But I label inside each one of them with what dates from what to what, you know, goes into each journal. And then I also label on the outside. So this is, you probably can't see it, but it says 2022 number 1. So usually I have about 8 journals per year that I fill up. This year I'm not going to have that many because I got busy moving houses. So I'm not going to have that many this year, but my journal is still really, really important to me. And sometimes I go back and I refer to those because I use it kind of as a diary also. It keeps me tracking. And so if I want to know something, when did I do something, I can go back through my journals and find it. Hey, Amber, good to see you. So that's me. Some people don't do it at all. You know, and there's nothing, journaling is not their thing. It is my thing. I'm not saying anybody else needs to have a thing like that, but it's my thing, you know? Okay, so let's go back to this. So what I'm doing here is I'm just tearing some bits of paper, and we're gonna put some bits of paper in this journal. We're going to add a few, and then we're going to add a few images in here. And all of this is just, I don't want it to be super important. All I want it for is background material. So that's what we're doing. Okay? Okay. So what I've got is an old phone book. Some of you may remember phone books. I've got an old phone book, and so I'm going to use that as my surface for gluing. I think this is actually, I'm not sure what this is, but we're going to find out if it sticks. Looks like it might be tracing paper, but I don't remember exactly. And so we'll see. Anyway, so you are a journal person. Good for you. That is what I do, and I pretty much am on a mission to get everybody to at least try journaling. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I think it's a really good thing to do, honestly. I think it's a really good thing to do. So I'm going to tell you about the garden experience, okay? And that's not enough color to save, so I am actually culling out some of my papers and throwing them in the trash here. We might save this one. It's got a hole in it. If you got a good circle, especially when it involves part of the hand, you got to save that. Anyway, let's get busy with this. Okay, so I'm just going to use a glue stick. And what was that was, yeah. Okay, so I just have an Elmer's Extreme glue stick. That's what I have on hand. And so I'm just going to use this as my glue surface. Because what you can do then is just flip the page, and you can just keep gluing and keep going. Oh, it's good to see you, Noe. Big hugs. Big hugs to you and yours. All right, I'm gonna clip this page. It wanted to fold over, so I'm just gonna clip it. All right, I'm just gonna put a piece of tape, or put this over that piece of tape, which was blocking out an address. That's the only reason for the tape. So we're just gonna stick this on here, and grab, I'm going to try and keep my fingers a little bit glue-free tonight. She says as she laughs, because that's like folly to try to keep glue off your hands when you're doing this kind of stuff, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, so let's put that, and then let's just stick another piece of paper on there as well. Okay, so we used to live, this is like a once upon a time story. We used to live out in the country, in a small town, and this was a long time ago. This was when Claus Man and I first got married. We moved to this little town, and we lived in 3 different houses there because Claus Man was building houses. And so we moved into the first house that he had already built that hadn't sold. And so we moved into this house and lived there. And that's where Race was born, when we lived in that house. And then, don't you know, the house sold I guess it was right at the end of that pregnancy. And don't you know that when the house closed, when he was 5 weeks old, and we had to build a house and get moved in short order. It was a good thing I was real young back then. This is a good thing it's a very good I was really young, because there isn't any way I could do that today. Anyway, so the second house that we lived in, we lived there until Race was 3, and we built another house. We had, in this subdivision that we lived in, it was one that his grandfather and Claus Man developed together. And there was one goofy shaped lot in this, there were 2 lots actually that were kind of goofy in the way that they were shaped. And one of them was there was a microwave radio tower on one of the lots. And so we figured that was going to ruin that lot. And so we decided that we could take that lot and another lot next to it, and we could just build a nice house there, and we'd probably stay there forever. Ha ha! Don't ever think that you're going to do anything forever. Don't ever think that. Do not. Just don't. Because that's when your life is going to get changed. When you think, oh, we're going to do this forever. Nope. No, you're not. Anyway, so the good part about this particular house lot situation is that although we were close to the microwave tower, which was not, we had no concerns about, maybe we should have, but we didn't. But in front of it, or around it, there was this great big space, kind of an L-shaped space, where we could make a garden. And so I think that we must have thought that we were feeding an army. Now, there were 4 of us in our family. Claus Man, his daughter, Race, who was a baby, and us, the 2 of us. There were 4 of us, one of which was a baby. But we must have thought that we were going to feed an army, or we were getting ready for the apocalypse or something. I don't know what we thought. But we planted, and I do mean we planted this enormous garden. You know, we had one of those planters, It was a planter that you hold the handles and has a little hopper, and you put the seed in and you set the little thing so it drops the seed every so often. It plants it at the right depth and all that. Okay, it's one of those. We had one of those, which is great. It was a great little planter thing. But when you can plant things with that, you will overplant. You can plant a lot of seeds real fast. You can overplant, which is exactly what we did. Okay, so we also decided that we wanted to have a permanent garden, okay? Meaning we wanted to have the garden that you had the stuff that took a little while to get started growing, and then it was there for a long time, such as rhubarb, asparagus, strawberries, black raspberries, and raspberries. And we had, let's see, let's just put this over this. And so we had all of those wonderful, wonderful plants, okay? Well, those things take time. Those plants take time to get established, and they take time to produce. Okay, you might be figuring out where this is going to go, but I'll tell you just in case you haven't figured out the rest of the story yet. And my husband's grandfather, who was in his, at that point, he was in his late 80s or early 90s, and he was still farming. And of course he had the big, and they like to farm, or they like to garden as well. And so they would, he'd bring his tractor up in the spring, and because he could turn the soil in this garden much faster with his disc behind the you know, it was a tractor that was for small spaces, like small as in not the giant tractor that we used for wheat and beans and all that kind of stuff. Okay. And so he'd put the disc on behind it, and he could go around and he could plow people's gardens for them, turn the soil, which was great. And so he came up to my door. Race was pretty small at that time. The garden, our permanent garden space, was in one part of our garden because it was an L-shaped. Okay, so it was in the one part. The smaller part of the L was where the permanent stuff was. And it was going to be the first year for us to be able to get asparagus, you know, a real stand of asparagus, because we had a lot of asparagus. We both loved it, and we had enough that we were going to be able to freeze it that year. And Clausman was having a particularly rough time that spring. I don't remember why, but he was just having a rough go of, you know, life was a little greatly challenging for him right there. And there was no such thing as cell phones then. And I was in the house doing whatever because I had a baby to take care of. And Granddad, somebody knocked on the door. And it was Granddad. And he says, and I quote, "Barb, just get your gun and shoot me. Just get your gun. Just get your gun now and just go ahead and shoot me now." I'm like, oh no. I'm like, oh no. I don't know what's happened, but whatever it is, it's not good, right? It is not good. Hopefully, I know where there's some more glue sticks here. Oh yeah, I think we're okay. Just get your gun and shoot me, he says, and I'm like, oh no. And I said, well, what happened? That one I can't even get the lid off of. Here we go. He said, he said, well, I plowed your garden. And I said, well, that was nice. I said, well, thank you for doing that. And he goes, no, I plowed your garden. And I said, like, how much of the garden? He said, I plowed it all. Like, oh no. Oh, he had plowed the entire, all the permanent stuff. He literally did. He plowed it all. And so I don't know if you guys, those of you who don't garden, I don't know what you know about permanent gardens, but if you plow under the permanent part of the garden, you're kind of yeah, it's kind of bad. Okay, I'm gonna just put this over here because this has got glue all over it, so I need to I can't turn that under. Okay, all right. Hopefully this makes sense. Anyway, so he had plowed the entire garden, literally. And if you do that, that's pretty much the end of your permanent garden. You got to start again. And I thought, when that happened, I thought, oh no, I'm gonna have to intercept Clausman somewhere. At that point, because he was having just a really, really difficult time. For whatever reason, we'd had some difficult stuff go on in the business, and he was doing remodeling and stuff like that, and we were having some kind of difficult times going on, and he was just not very happy and kind of struggling, and I'm like, oh no, I got to figure out where he is, and I've got to intercept him, because if he comes home and he sees what has happened to his garden, which was his place of refuge that he spent his evenings, or coming home from a hard day, he would go out and putter around in the garden, or he would or else he would stop someplace and he would fish a little bit, but it was kind of like his wind down time. He'd weed in the garden, or he'd do stuff out there. And I thought, if he comes home and he sees this, that may be enough to just push him right over the edge. And so I knew that he often stopped at the lumber yard on his way home, to order supplies for the next day and stuff. And so I called, because remember, no cell phones, no car phone, we didn't have anything like that at that point. This is back in the dark ages. As APG Jamie says, it's back in the 1900s, and so my best shot was to try to intercept him, or to get somebody to get a message to him to call home or something. And so I did get a hold of the lumber yard, and he hadn't been there yet, but they were expecting him, and I'm like, okay, please, please, please make sure that he calls me before you let him get out of there. And so I said, okay. I said, I can't tell you enough how important this is that you have him call me. And they're like, okay, we got it. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. Please don't let him leave there without calling me. This is critically important. So he ends up calling me, and he was not in a very good mood when he called, and he said, what is going on? Because he assumed it was probably something with one of the kids. And his daughter at that point she was probably 16 or 17, and she was kind of a pill. Sometimes she was a lot of a pill. And he said, he's like, what is going on? I'm like, well, Granddad was up here today, and he came up to help. He goes, Okay. I said, well, he came up and he plowed the garden for us. Hey, Brenda. And, hey, Barbara Clark. And he said, well, that was nice. And I said, it really was. And he said, I want you to remember that it was really nice of him to do this. And he said, why? And I said, because he plowed the entire garden, the whole garden. He said, okay. And I said, no, he plowed the whole garden. And he goes, everything? And I said, yep, he got everything. And he goes, oh, no. And so I said, I just want you to have some time to process that before you got home. Okay. So, about that, somewhere in there, I don't know if it was that day or the next day. I don't remember the timing of this thing. I think it was early the next morning, but I don't remember for sure. I looked outside, and my elderly grandfather-in-law, whom I loved dearly, was outside, and he was searching for the roots of the various plants, and he was trying to plant them back into the ground. He felt so terrible about it. He was trying to replant the plants, and I'm like, oh, I mean, that to me was just gut-wrenching, that he was out there trying to put our garden back together, which is like trying to reassemble the broken teapot, right? And so we both were able, to console him and say, it's okay, you made a mistake, it's just plants. We'll plant new plants, it'll give us a chance to change and plant something else. Don't worry about it. I mean, he felt so horrible because he was a farmer, so he knew the significance of planting. Bless his heart. Okay, so now my husband, Claus Man, decides that he is going to go talk to his grandmother because he wants his grandmother. Now, Granddad and Mom, as we called her, had been married for, at this point, 60-some years. And so, and they had a kind of a unique relationship in that if Granddad spent some money on something, Mom would figure out exactly how much money he'd spent. Now, this didn't happen to do with crops and things like that, but, any kind of hobby type thing that she perceived as a hobby. Like, Granddad had an airplane, and which he used for various things. And some of it happened to be for the farming and that kind of stuff. But, he bought this airplane, and so she figured out exactly how much money he spent on that airplane, and then she took that same amount of money, and she, without discussing it or anything else, and maybe he didn't discuss the purchase of the airplane, I don't really know, but anyway, she took the same amount of money, or more, I don't remember, and she went and bought new furniture. That's the kind of relationship that they had, and they adored each other, and yet they were it was a tit for tat kind of relationship to some degree. And this was a long time ago. I mean, for her to do that, I'm not quite sure that I would have had the chutzpah, shall we say, to do that, but she did not have a problem with that. Boy, she, his name was Evans, and she was like, yeah, if Evans is going to do that, if he's going to do that, I'm going to do this. And I mean, she was a pill. Okay, so you kind of got the personality of Mom. And so Claus Man decides he's going to go because he's feeling, he's over the shock of the garden, and now he's really concerned about his grandfather feeling so horrible. So he decides he's going to go have a conversation with his grandmother and appeal to her kindness, which might be a little bit of a stretch with her. She was a good lady, but she was a little well, she could be brusque. Let's just say she could be brusque. So appealing to her sense of, I don't know what, empathy or sweetness or whatever, it's kind of a bit of a stretch. And Claus Man thought maybe he could, find that, he could trigger that part of her. So he goes down, and which they didn't live very far from us, and he frequently would stop by there and have coffee with her, with him, or both of them, or whatever. So he goes down there, and she's by herself, and this is like a day or so after the plowing of the garden has happened, and he goes down there to have coffee with her to appeal to her soft side, like she had one. And he said, now, he called her Mom, and he said, now, Mom, I want you to be kind, and I want you to be sensitive to Granddad today, because he's feeling really bad. And she said, well, why is he feeling bad? And so he says, well, he came down to our house, and he was trying to help, and he plowed the garden. And she goes, okay. And he says, no, I mean, he plowed the garden. He plowed all of the strawberries and asparagus and rhubarb and raspberries and black raspberries. I mean, he got it all. He did a really good job. He got every part of that garden. And she is starting to kind of steam about that, because she was quite a gardener, and she was steaming a little bit about that. And she said, well, why would he do that? And he said, now, Mom, he was just trying to help us. That's all. He was just trying to help us. And he said he feels really bad. So I just wanted you to just kind of be extra kind to him and help him, because he's really feeling bad. So just be extra kind to him. And if he says something about it, just, be a little extra nice to him. About that time, she didn't say anything. And about that time, Granddad walks in from being outside somewhere on the place. He walks in, and she looks at him, and she says, Evans, what in the world were you doing down there gardening anyway? So the whole thing failed. Claus Man is trying to, salvage his granddad's feelings and trying to appeal to his grandmother, and that's the way she dealt with it. Evans, what in the world were you doing down there in their garden anyway? To which Claus Man says, Mom, that's not what I asked you to say. And of course, then Granddad's feeling worse, and it was a dismal day in their household, because he was already feeling bad, and then he got scolded on top of it. So, yeah. Poor Granddad. He was such a kind-hearted man, such a sweet-spirited individual, and then he just got scolded to beat the band. That's kind of how they were, That's kind of how they were. Okay, I'm going to try real hard not to turn everything off here. I'm kind of in a precarious position right here. I'm just going to dig a little bit through these, through some of my papers. I'm going to pull out a few more pieces of paper to use. And these are all scrappy bits and pieces of paper. And I'm going to glue a few more things into this book, and then I'm going to use some of my images that I printed out. I'm going to use some of those images and add to, just in the form of, still thinking about backgrounds on these pages. So, alright, we'll call that good enough, okay? Call it good enough. Put that one back. We don't need that. Okay. So that's the story of our permanent garden that we had for a very short period of time. He tried to help. He did. He tried very much to help. Bless his heart. He was just such a kind person. You know, and as frustrating as it was, like I said, I don't know who we thought we were feeding, because we had a big enough garden for probably an army. Another crazy story from that same garden, Race, my son, our son, was quite young, but he was big enough to get in on, he wasn't big enough to pick stuff, but he was big enough to get in on the helping the excitement of you know, and being around us when we were canning and freezing and that kind of stuff, right? Of which we did a lot, a whole lot of canning and freezing. We had so many tomatoes that we canned ketchup, tomato soup. I don't think we ever did salsa, but we did like tomato, we froze tomatoes, we canned tomatoes, you know, for soup and that kind of stuff. And we did a lot, like dozens and dozens and dozens of quarts of things. We made sauerkraut, we made all this stuff, and we had a whole ton of sweet corn. Many rows of sweet corn. Okra, we canned okra, dilled okra. We made dill pickles. We did sweet pickles, dill pickles, bread and butter pickles. I mean, I feel like the guy in Forrest Gump talking about the shrimp. That's what I feel like when I start talking about this. Anyway, okay, I've got some more papers torn up here, a few more little samples of small bits and pieces. Now I just need to remember where I put my, here it is, glue book. Okay, so we're going to put this right here, and I've got more little bits to pull from. So we're going to do a few more. Oh, we're going to go to the end of this signature. That is great. And that then this signature will have something in here, and then we can start adding some little imagery, small bits of imagery into this, just for background. That's all I'm after, is just background. Okay? All right. So, all right, so I don't know if you know this. Those of you who are gardeners certainly will know it, but when the sweet corn is at the proper place, you need to pick it. Because if you don't pick it, the coons will come and pick it for you, or other varmints will come and pick it for you. And we were pretty careful about what kinds of things that we used on produce that we were going to eat, you know, so we were pretty careful with any kind of poisons and stuff. And so often you would end up with worms on the corn. You know, that was just a part of it. And so you you know, you just picked off the worms. Okay. And then you froze the corn, blanched the corn, scraped the corn. It's a mess. But it sure is good in the middle of the winter that you can go and, all right, let me see. What am I going to do with this? I just got to think here for a second. What do I want to do with this? Okay, I'm just going to leave this window alone. I'm just going to put a little bit of paper around it, and then we'll do something different there. Maybe. We'll see what we do. Anyway, so it was the night we had harvested all the corn, and my parents would come out and they would help us pick. And both, especially my dad, really liked to help harvest the corn, and you know, he liked the work in the garden. So he had come out and we had picked, and when you have a big garden and you have a wide variety of produce, there is a lot of stuff that comes on at one time. And it was not unusual. I had a big country kitchen back then, and it was not unusual for me to be up for many, many hours preserving stuff, canning, freezing, whatever, you know, running the canner, running the pressure cooker, whatever, you know, because you just, that was just what you had to do. When the stuff was ready, you had to preserve it. You had to deal with it. Then, couldn't wait. And, let's see. I'm just going to put that up there. Okay, so it was, for whatever reason, we didn't get to work on the corn. To start, we started it, I guess, at my house, and then we ended up with a trailer, like a small trailer, like one that you had behind a John Deere garden tractor type trailer, and it was full. Okay, that of ears of corn. Now that doesn't seem like that many ears of corn, but it was a lot of corn. Let me tell you, it's a lot of corn. Okay, let's go over. Oh, one more page here. Excellent. All right, I gotta move this over. We'll just sort of change places here a little bit. Oh, I flipped 2 pages. Yeah, I'm not quite as far done as I thought I was. Okay. All right, let's... Okay, so we ended up, for whatever reason, we went to my parents' house and took the little trailer wagon thing down there. I don't know why we did that, but we were doing this in my parents' kitchen for whatever reason. There was a reason, but I don't remember what it was. And so the men folk, meaning my dad, my husband, and Race, were out shucking the corn. I'm sure that Race was a huge help. I'm just sure he was. He was probably 7 years old at this point, maybe 5. And so they're out there shucking the corn, and then Mom and I are inside, and we have the boiling water going, and we're already starting to blanch the ears, cool them. I mean, it was a whole assembly line thing. Like I said, I don't know how many people we thought we were feeding, but apparently it was a lot that we thought. And so, Race he thought this was a great endeavor. And so he's out there, and then he realizes there are worms. And so he comes inside. Now we're busy. Mom and I are busy doing this corn deal, the assembly line thing. And when you have little kids, you just want them to be busy, and you want them to be okay. And so we thought that being out there with the men was trustworthy, which may or may not have been 100% true. Anyway, so he comes in, and we're busy, and he said, I need a jar. Okay, so we gave him a jar, and we didn't know what he was doing with that jar. Well, it turns out that he was collecting the corn worms in the jar. Well, he didn't ask for a lid. He just asked for the jar, which is what we gave him. And I never thought another thing about it. And we did corn until the wee hours of that morning, getting everything done and in the freezer and all that stuff. We were so bloomin' tired. I don't remember if we spent the night there. I just don't remember. Anyway, fast forward. Okay, you got to kind of just go with me on this journey and just kind of fast forward. And oh, I don't know. It was a few days later. Race comes in we're back at our house in the country. He comes in and he starts riffling through the refrigerator, my refrigerator, and he backs up, and he for a little kid, he was furious, and he said, "What did you do with my worms?" I'm like, "What worms?" He said, "My worms that I had in the refrigerator." Okay, right about then, I was like, oh no. I don't know. I'm like, what worms are you talking about in the refrigerator? Because I hadn't seen any worms in the refrigerator. Well, he had brought the jar home, and he'd put them in the back part of the refrigerator. Okay? I didn't know this. Okay? You have goosebumps? Hi, Denise. Hello to anybody that I've missed. Your Little House on the Prairie on steroids. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, we were. We definitely were. Okay, so he starts, he is all but berating me, which was not his character. He was a very, he was an easygoing kid. He was a real sweet kid. He was, he was not this behavior that he was demonstrating of going after me and blaming me, and like I was lying to him and all this stuff. And I'm like, I said, whoa. I said, what are you talking about worms? And he hauls out his jar from the refrigerator, and he shows it to me, and he says, "My worms are gone." Okay, now remember the part about the jar? He didn't ask for a lid. Remember that part? Yeah. So he had collected, I don't know how many corn worms, the green corn worms. He collected those off of the ears of corn. That was his job, and he thought that was that was perfect for a little boy. He collected all these corn worms, and he had ceremoniously and ever so carefully put them in the jar without a lid. And then he had brought them home. I didn't know this. And he had stuffed them back in the back part of the refrigerator, because I don't know what he was going to do with them. Maybe he was going fishing with them. I don't know what he was going to do with them, but he was going to use these worms. And there was not a worm in that jar anywhere. And I am stunned into silence. I'm just making a collage here just to cover up this this masking tape. I am stunned into silence. And when I could finally speak, I said, "You had worms in the refrigerator?" I said, "How did we get worms?" Because I still I'm not computing what has happened, and that I inadvertently was a part of this faux pas. And I said, what do you mean that you had worms in the refrigerator? And he said, "Yeah, when we were doing corn," he said, "I collected all the worms. I was going to keep all the worms." And now he's starting to get, very sad because his worms are gone. And I said, Rick, I had no idea. I had no idea that there were worms in the refrigerator. And he said, well, where are they? Well, that right there, my friend, is the $64,000 question, because I don't have the faintest idea where your worms are. And then I start wondering I'm wondering where those worms went. And I'm wondering how many of those worms got into other things that we might have eaten. Yeah, never saw the worms, never found any parts of the worms, don't know where they went, never found them dried up in the bottom of the refrigerator. I have no idea what happened to them. None. No idea. I prefer to think that we didn't eat them, but I am pretty afraid that we probably did. Yeah, anyway, those are two of my gardening tales of woe. I won't tell you about making sauerkraut, though. That's for another day. Yeah. The joys of having boys around. Yes, indeed. I don't think so. I don't think he dumped the jar and put it back. No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to them. All right, we're going to stick one more little piece of this, because I need this. I just feel like I need this to go off the bottom of the page, so I'm going to put this on here. Sometimes you just got to go with what your gut says, and when I'm doing stuff like this, that's what I do, is I go with my gut. I'm not a great collage artist by any means. I just kind of go by the seat of my pants here. Okay, this right here is the gutter, and this is signature number 3 over here, which I don't know what I'm going to do on signature number 3. But these are, this signature, there's 3 signatures, so this one, let's see, goes from here to here. So this one I decided to just put these little collage papers in it to give us a place to begin. This one I'm just doing the watercolor washes, which takes a little bit longer because I'm putting the watercolor ground on the papers to give it something for the watercolor to stick to, and then putting just real pale washes on. So that's that one. I don't know what I'm going to do to this one back here. I asked you guys what you thought I should do, and I don't remember what anybody said. Oh, he has no... Barb, will this be the question you ask God when you see him? Yeah. Where did the worms go? Yeah, that's right. Now I will say, about those worms, God. Yeah. Okay. So anyway. Oh, Rhonda said stamps and stencils. Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking, was about just doing stamps and stencils back here. That's kind of what I was thinking about, but I have different colors of permanent ink pads, so that would be kind of a good thing. I think that might be, that's what we said. Dorothy agrees, that's what we said. I should write that down so I'll remember it. See, you all knew what you told me, but I didn't remember because I've slept since then, and we know that rule. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now, because I just feel like I want to, is I'm going to take one of each of these pieces of laser copied postcards. I made 2 copies of each. I'm just going to take one of each. I got to find a place to put things. I've got to come up with a better system here of how to keep my stuff. Not your problem. My sewing room is almost put together, you guys. I actually did a project, or project if you are from Canada or other places. I did a project in my sewing room, so I got enough of it cleared out, or enough of it not cleared out but put together, that I actually could do something in there. While I cut these out, I'll tell you what I did. Okay, most of you know Miss Muppet, my ancient dog. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one with all these cats, and I'm going to cut the cats apart. That doesn't sound right. I'm going to cut the postcard images apart. I'm going to cut the cats apart. Good grief. All of a sudden I'm like, that's not right. Anyway. Most of you know Miss Muppet. She is my ancient dog, she has turned 17. She's now well over 17. She's a very old girl. She's still hanging in there with us. But she is like having a puppy now. So she requires a lot of attention. She requires being taken out. She's not capable of telling us now because the urge to go to the bathroom hits her way too quickly, just like puppies. And so it's kind of like it's like potty training in reverse, if you know what I mean. Oh, bless her heart. So you got to keep her on a schedule. You got to take her out. When she's in, she's got to be on. I did find these things online that are waterproof blankets. And so me being me, my philosophy is don't buy something twice. So if they have it available in different sizes, then buy the big one, because you don't want to buy the small one and then have to go back and buy the big one, right? Got my drift? Okay. So I bought two, because if you have one and it gets wet, you got to be able to launder it, the blankets, because of course you've got to have them be washable. So I bought two from Amazon of the big waterproof blankets. Okay? All right. Well, this is a great idea, and they cover a lot of room, which is wonderful. But do you know how heavy those are when they get full of water? They're really heavy. And so I had bought two of them, and it's like, okay, the idea is a sound idea, but it was a really bad idea to get these blankets this big. And so me being me, I go back online, I look again, and I start measuring out with the other sizes of the blankets, and I determined that the smaller blanket is a much better blanket, much better size. So I bought two of the smaller blankets. So I now have two giant blankets and two small blankets. Okay. Well, two small blankets is not quite enough. Hey, Cindy. Oh, Elton's here. You took her out? Oh, thank you. He just took Muppet outside. I bet she was happy. And so I have two. Elton is my husband, in case you don't know. Those of you that are new. We got married in October. We've known each other for 100 years. Finally decided. Well, so what I ended up doing, Denise, you're brilliant. What I finally decided was, after I have the small blankets, and they are the right size, I determined that indeed I could cut those down. Okay? See, look at Denise thinking. I could cut those down, but they're like, do you know what chenille bedspreads are like? That fuzz, that fuzzy texture. Okay, well, that's kind of what I don't know how these are waterproof, but that's kind of what these blankets are like. They're all over that fuzzy stuff, and whatever is in between the layers is the waterproof thing. And it doesn't matter which side you use, they're both sides are waterproof. Okay, so I'm like, I can cut this apart, but I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to get something to bind these together, to bind the edges. There is no way that I'm going to be able to have these blankets with a raw edge. It'll probably clog up the washing machine or the dryer or something. There's no way to do that. So it's going to have to be bound. So one day I finally, this is all processing in my head while I'm still moving out of my other house and trying to get moved in here, and still trying to stream and do my VIP classes and yada yada yada. Okay, I finally one day in my craziness remembered to go by the only place in the town where I live now that has any sewing supplies whatsoever other than quilting supplies, and that's not what I needed, is Hobby Lobby. And I finally remembered to go there. And I go into Hobby Lobby, and they have very limited supplies, but they did have blanket binding. And so I thought, okay. So I got the blanket binding, got enough to cut these 2 giant blankets in half. But that gave me 4 cut edges that were going to have to be bound. Okay? But I don't have enough room anywhere because I've got stuff everywhere as I'm trying to get settled in here. So cut to Saturday when I finally have my table, my sewing table is clear enough. I can find the thread, I can find the scissors. I've got most of my stuff kind of, organized enough. Hang on just a second, I lost my mouse. Okay. Sorry, there was a message on my computer I need to get rid of. Okay, so anyway, there's 4 cut edges that have to be bound. And so on Saturday, I got to test out the new sewing room area. And then I discovered that my second machine, which I've set up in the room, that I inadvertently must have thrown away the power cord. Or donated it probably. And I'm like, oh no. So I don't have a power cord to run that machine. I since have ordered one, but I guess that's what I did because I can't find it anywhere. Dumb. But, I think I've done pretty well so far. So far, it's the only thing I've really lost is the power cord. But without the power cord, the machine doesn't run. Anyway, okay, let's go back to the table here. So what I did, I'll tell you more about that in a second, is I have cut out, just cut apart some of the cats. And these are some of the buildings in that one little postcard. So there's some of the buildings, and there's more kitties, and then here's some more little kitties. These are good little images because I just want little vignettes of things. And then this one, I think what I'm going to do with this is I think we might just do this. This is one of those things where you don't think about it, just do it. Just cut some strips of this and maybe cut a strip of this, and then so I've got that. Okay, so I've got some of those, so I'm going to add those in here in some places. We'll see where do we want to put these. I can hear Elton sneezing out in the other room. I don't know if I want to use this great big image, so I'm just going to leave that alone for the moment. I'm just going to work on these small ones. Yeah. So I'm just going to put just some of these little images. I'm going to sprinkle these throughout the some of these pages. Okay. Yeah, people come to class and forget their power cords. Yes, I used to have that issue too. I have to say, this is the first time I've ever been dumb enough to throw away the power cord, and I suppose I might still find it somewhere in a box, but I don't know. I don't think it's looking good for me. But anyway, Saturday, I spent the vast majority of the day dealing with fluff from cutting the edges of the cords or the blankets, and I now have 4 additional blankets that are exactly the right size for Miss Muppet, and I can wash them and dry them and not stress the washing machine. Yes. Oh my goodness. I want to come over here to this one that I left a window. I want to see. Let's see if one of these might fit. Will this fit in here? That'll fit. Okay. So the question is, do I want it to peek through on this side? I think I do. Okay. So let's try. I don't know if this is going to work or not exactly. I'm going to go around the edges of this image with glue stick, just around the edges. And then we're going to see. Okay, let's see before I smash it down if that's going to work. Except for the fact I put it in crooked. Other than that, seems like it's going to work. Let's pull it up just a smidge taller. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, now I have some washi tape over here that doesn't necessarily go with this, but I just want to put some of this on there. And this tape doesn't stick real firmly, so I'm going to add a little bit more glue to it. So anyway, it was, I have to say, it felt really good to sew in my new sewing room, even though I had to cart my sewing machine from the one I used back here in this room. I had to take it to the other end and set it up. I'm just glad, really glad that I had 2 sewing machines. Actually, okay, true confession, you guys, true confession. In this house, there are 5 sewing machines. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5. Elton has an old one. I have 2 old ones, 2 old singers, and 2, well, everything is old, actually. When you have a love of sewing machines, it's really hard to not have them. It's really hard to let them go. Claus Man loved sewing machines too, because he repaired sewing machines, and he had a real love of, getting a machine out of a dumpster and seeing if he could fix it. Most of the time he did fix them, by the way. Okay, so let's go back. So what I did is I just took this tape that was on my desk that I happened to spy over there, and I put it around the edges of that, and then there's our little window. with our little Greek peekaboo. Okay, I like that. I can like that. All right. Let's go back to the beginning of this signature and let's put in an image or two here or there. And this is the only reason for this is just to get something on these pages, and then whatever happens later happens later. It doesn't matter. Things can cover up things. And that is perfectly fine. Nothing needs to have nothing needs to be so precious that you can't cover it up. Okay? Denise used to own a quilt store. Then you have fabric. They are all working. Well, one machine, the one that Elton has, I don't know whether it's working. I haven't investigated that one. But all the other ones are, yeah. Except for the one that doesn't have a power cord, but it's coming. I did find a place where they guaranteed that the power cord was a replacement for this machine. And so it's on its way. Yeah, it's on its way. Let's just put this little kitty here. I'm not going to stress over where things are going to go. This is just when I'm playing. I'm just playing and just gluing stuff in. Backgrounds, that's all I'm after, some backgrounds. And whatever else happens, happens down the road. Okay, let's go over here to this one. Okay. Sometimes I just, you just can't worry about stuff. Hello, Emmy. Good to see you. Whoop. Just dropped my glue stick. That's not good. Anyhow, what time is it? Oh, we got plenty of time. So, yeah, now you've heard the story of the cornworms and poor Granddad getting scolded by... I think this is where I had this, wasn't it? Close enough. Oh, poor thing. He felt so bad. He felt so bad, and then he got scolded by his wife. He got scolded sufficiently. He got scolded. Poor thing. Mom was never known for her tact. Never. Good lady. Strong lady. Not very tactful. And, yeah. Poor Granddad. Alright, let's put... Oh, that goes there. We'll go there. Okay, I gotta use a thing to get some weight on here. Funny stories. Cornworms and gardens, and that all started because of Rhonda telling us that her garden blew away. Didn't blow away, it got destroyed. Storm destroyed her garden. That's where all of that started. It's all Rhonda's fault. It's all Jinx's fault. But maybe we made Jinx smile. Right? Maybe we made Jinx smile tonight. Let's put that little kitty there. I don't know why. Dorothy, go to sleep, girl. Goodness, get some rest. You and No Eat. I don't know. You girls are staying up late. Go get some rest. I hope you sleep well. Alright, let's see what else we have here. How many? Where's the end of my signature? Let's go back here and Let's put that little kitty right there. The thing about laser prints or laser copies, which is what these are, is that they, because they're toner based, the ink, if you go over it with something wet, like matte medium or something, it's not gonna run. So there's a big advantage to that. Okay, so we have a little kitty. And we have a few more of these little images here. We have this one. I think that looks nice there. You see how much thought I'm putting into this, right? Now, I am not encouraging you to go out and buy a laser printer. They are expensive. The printer is not as expensive as the toner replacement cartridges are expensive. And if you're going to get one, if your printer allows for the extra large cartridges, I definitely suggest that you do extra large cartridges. Let's put put that little kitty there. This looks like a little kitty paw print. I'll put this little kitty over here. Anyway, there you go. Toner cartridges are expensive. Whew. Okay, little kitty. There you go. And there's your little paw. There's your little paw, kitty paw over there. Not really, but kind of almost looks like it, doesn't it? Okay, so we got that one. Let's flip over here. We got two more images. Where did I stop? Okay, so we got that. Okay, so we have this. Okay, where shall we do this? Let's put this one over here. I don't know why. We're just going to put that over there. Anyway, so stamps and stencils on signature number 3. Maybe we'll do that on Monday, unless I get a real bug and get the lead out and get it done. I need to get this finished. Oh goodness. Okay, so let's put this one. I like it there, so we're going to put it there. I find that the less you stress out about where you put things, the better they turn out. Some of my very favorite journal pages I've ever done had the least amount of, the absolute least amount of stress involved. I think we're going to put that kitty picture right there. I don't know why, just because. Just because. Because I think we can. So in the chat, those of you who are still hanging around, how many of you do any kind of journaling, whether it's writing journaling or art journaling or junk journaling or any kind of journaling? How many of you in the chat do that? I'd be curious to know. Yeah, I like that little picture there. That's fine. Something can come in and cover it up. That's okay. We don't care. I'm going to close up my glue book. Amber does art and junk journals. Yeah, she does. She does some great journals. I've seen Amber's journals. Barbara Clark does writing, art, and junk. Barbara Clark does it all. Yes, she does. Rhonda doesn't do it, but she's happy that I like it. Hello, Signa. Okay, let's take a look at this signature right here. Okay, so this was the second signature in this little book. You can see how it's kind of bulking out a little bit. I like me a book that bulks out. Okay, so there's that. We're just going to leaf through this signature and take a look at it. I'm going to look in the computer so I can see it. Okay. All right, I like it. I can like it. I like those the little pictures, but I like this big one too. I like the big one. And that. And then we have this little one. And what else do we have? Oh, there's the one that's the peekaboo behind the window of the envelope with some tape on the back and a little kitty. There's more of the Santorini, and there's that little kitty there. Okay, that signature, that middle signature right there, we're going to call that one prepped for whatever happens next. So I need to go back and finish this. Oh, and there's that little one. Finish this first part with the watercolor, and then, yeah, so we'll go back and we'll do more of that. Amber has a fatty patty. You need to get it finished and do a flip video. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that was started by, was it Dawn? Dawn started that, I think. I actually met Dawn in person. Neat lady. Neat lady. Yeah. And Hermie Journals. That's good. Okay, so we're going to finish just a little bit early tonight. Earlier than sometimes, later than others. And I will see you all on Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. This weekend on Saturday is VIP class. I have not sent the email out yet. I will get that done tomorrow. And so I will see you then. We are doing, the plan is, since I found the sewing room, is to do fabric no-tan, which is an expanded square, but doing it in fabric. So we're going to see. I've been thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and I just got to make it happen. We've done paper no-tan before, but I want to do something in fabric, so I think it'll be fun. I hope. Yeah. Okay, have a great week, everybody, and I will see you on Friday. Remember to do something nice for other people. It really helps kind of expand and put your own life in perspective, and we all need that. You know, perspective helps us a lot. It's real easy to get too internalized and get all caught up in how horrible the world is and how awful everything is around us, and it's not. It's not. We will survive this. Everything. We're going to be fine. Okay? All right, that's enough said. Remember to get creative today, because you know it's easy. You just do a little at a time. Every day, you make progress. And the next thing you know, you got some good stuff going on and things to look at. And you have expressed your creativity, and that is good for everybody. It's good for your soul. And I will see you before you know it. Bye for now.